Let's speak to Andy Robertshaw, who's a military historian. He's also a military advisor on the film War Horse. Andy, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Nice to have you with us. I think we're talking to you from a trench, is that right?
Well, I'm very near a trench. I'm actually next to a pillbox right now. There's the only place I can get any reception.
OK, well, I'm glad you're... Just explain why you're out there on manoeuvres. What's going on?
I run a replica trench system and some Second World War dugouts and other shelters as part of a teaching project here at the Kent Showground at Detling in Kent.
I know it well. Well, I hope you're staying warm there. The weather's about to change, being there on the outside.
It is.
I'm sure it's no problem for a tough guy like you, though, Andy. I mean, on this point of reenactments, I mean, there's all sorts of reenactments. I mean, you're at Detling. I remember as a kid going to that very field and watching jousting and things like that. There's lots of that. Sealed knot, and the list goes on, and bring it slightly more to well, I was about to say modern times, but if you look back at the last two wars, as in World War I and II, there are reenactments of that. People dress up. But it's this Nazi element that seems to have upset people, many arguing that's one area where you just don't go. What is your take on that, Andy?
My take is that I started reenacting in 1969. I've been doing this a very long time. Strangely, I started reenacting in Kent. I have never worn Nazi uniform. I would possibly consider it if the context was correct. The argument very often from reenactors of the SS is they're portraying the ordinary German soldier. The problem is they actually choose, in this case, to be the SS. So they're very far from the ordinary soldier. These people chose both to reenact and originally to be in the SS. So they're not actually portraying the ordinary soldier at all. OK,
so they've sort of taken it to coin a phrase, to the next level. Would that be right?
I think so, yeah. I mean, you could argue it's not political. I think that would be a very, very tough call to make because obviously British soldiers were conscripts, so were many Germans. Their argument is also that they're not portraying Germans, they're portraying Latvians, and therefore that's somehow OK. I argued very, very long and hard with a film director about talking about the enemy being the Germans. He said, well, why? I said, well, because the first victims of the Nazis were Germans, and by 1943-44, many Nazis weren't German. It's a very odd argument to make.
I would imagine, not for 1 second, I think these people were glorifying it, saying, isn't this fantastic? These were the good guys. There's none of that going on, but I suppose it is. Whilst we can talk about Dad's Army and the producers and all those kind of areas that have lampooned and satirised and taken the mick out of the Nazis, this obviously isn't that. It's not done in a comedic sense. I would imagine their defence, if they need one, they might say they don't, but their defence would be something on the lines of, look, we're just reflecting part of that era. It was a 1940s reenactment festival, and that's all we were doing. We weren't there to offend anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I could almost go with that if they just did the ordinary German Wehrmacht soldier who was a conscript. It's the choice that they're making to portray the SS with everything that goes with it.
We will watch with interest. Listen, Andy, I mean, you've attended many festivals. Is it unusual for somebody to go and dress up in the Nazi garb? Is that usually given a wide berth, or have you seen it elsewhere?
I tend to stay away from it. I used to work at the Army Museum. You can imagine that I really didn't want to be associated. And to be perfectly honest, my wife and I would not have survived the Holocaust. So, I have a very, very, very strong opinion about this.
Of course. Andy, thank you for your time.